So thanks to your two very wonderfully penetrating analytical power, we have your collective wisdom put up in terms of the real issues that you faced in your family life, the issues that you think are really very important. Yes, indeed, children. It's the first, one of the most important concerns that many of you had. And the points that came up in that was, number one, generation gap, rebellious children, the problem of association of non-devotee children, Western culture, extracurricular activities, the role models, the role of the father in parental upbringing. Yes, next. Was this the order in which we put it? Okay. Time management. We'll talk about some of these things as we go on. Time management was prioritizing choices. You have so many things to do. And how do you give importance to certain things and do them in preference to other things? And then career versus Krishna consciousness. How ambitious should we be in our career? And in order to be successful in our workplace, to what degree should we interact with work colleagues? And what should be the degree of social interaction with respect to parties and so on and so forth? Dealing with non-devotees. What if the spouse is a non-devotee? What about other family members who may not be devotees? The extended family may not be devotees. We may have friends and colleagues who are not devotees. So how do we deal with each of them? Entertainment. What do we do about this? Should we watch TV? Not watch TV? Karmi movies? Once a month? Once a week or not at all? What should be our entertainment? Communication or lack of it between spouses, between family members. Sometimes there's inadequate communication, sometimes there's miscommunication, sometimes the mode of communication may be wrong, the body language may be wrong, sometimes etiquette may not be followed, youngsters may not know how to speak to the elders, and so on and so forth. Differences of opinions, partly due to different levels of advancement. Someone is a new devotee, the spouse may be a relatively older devotee, or one of the partners may not be a devotee, or the spouse may be of a different sampradaya or a different kind of religious belief. And then there may be differences, even if both are very committed devotees, knowledgeable devotees, but they may have differences with regard to practical application of Krishna consciousness in day-to-day life. Distribution of household work and chores, especially when both are working. Then how do you distribute the washing of the dishes, the laundry, the cleaning of the house, the garden, and so on. There could be problems because of that. Prasadam, eating outside. A touchy issue just like entertainment. Should we eat out? Can we eat out? And if we do, how often? What is prohibited, what is not? What about those who travel outside for work? What should they do for food? Okay, next. The next point that all of you raised was how much more to earn. How much should we strive to earn? Should we struggle more to earn more? How much should we save and how much should we spend? What should we spend on? What about charity? How much should we give? What should we invest in? What is permissible and what is not permissible? And should the wife also work? Is the financial condition such that she is forced to work? And if it isn't that bad, does the wife really need to work? So these are some of the points. Okay, that's it? Yeah. So therefore you can see it's not an easy thing. Hare Krishna. And there's actually some kind of a connection between the two workshops that you did, or the two breakout sessions. In one session you outlined the different problems or the issues that you face. We'll talk about them, the practical application. So we'll try to discuss some of these issues in brief now, and then I'll highlight to you the summary of the second breakout session. So shall we start with prasadam, eating out, since that's there's just one or two points in that. Yes, so now about eating. I think this is one issue that, what are the issues some of you face in eating? Outside or eating at home even? Yeah, and some of the points, let's be more specific now. Let's get down to specific points. One, you said some of you travel. And when you travel, you have to eat out. So what should you do? That's the common question I believe many of you would probably face. Now, an easy answer seems to be that you carry prasadam wherever you go. No answer is a complete answer. But the way that many devotees do it is to carry as much prasadam as is possible for you to carry, dry prasadam. That suffices for a short journey. If it's a journey of 2 days, perhaps 3 days, you can somehow pull on with an added purchase of fruits and nuts and so on and so forth. You can supplement the diet, and then you can manage with prasadam that you've carried from home, which could be dry, things that will last for a couple of days and which you can eat. This is one part solution. Another solution could be that if your travels take you to a place where there is an ISKCON center, go there and take prasadam. So you get to take darshan and associate with the devotees, and you also get to take prasadam. Maybe you can eat with the devotees, or maybe there's a Govindas they have. Then that's also a part solution to your problem. Another option could be if you know devotees there. Then you can eat with the devotees if you have connections and you know devotees who stay in different places. Or you may ask your devotee friends, well, I'm going to Jakarta in Indonesia. Do we have some devotees we know there? Okay, someone says, yes, I have a devotee. Then maybe we can establish the contact, and when you're in Jakarta, then you can have prasadam there, if there's a connection. So do a little bit of homework. You'll be surprised how effective these things may be. And devotees would like to serve, and they'll be happy to serve. And if the situation arises that you've exhausted your prasadam, or you're going for a longer visit, and your dry prasadam can't last for a very long time, or if you're visiting a country like Australia where they confiscate all your food, then there is more difficulty. Then perhaps you can try to survive on non-cooked food for a few days. And if ultimately you really have to eat out, then as a last resort, because obviously you can't starve, you have to eat. The food that you carried from home is exhausted. There's no devotees there, there's no temples there. Then take some food which is absolutely, positively vegetarian. rice, yogurt, milk, fruit, something like that. Be careful of salads. Because if you go to China, you ask for vegetarian salad, they'll still give you fish oil on top of that. So they have no conception of what vegetarian food is all about. But these are some practical tips of what you could do when you travel out, and try to manage like this. If it's really a very long trip for 1 month, 2 months, then obviously you have to make arrangements for your cooking. Then you'd like to carry a few utensils and something with you to cook. If you're going for a long assignment, longer than a week or 2 weeks or something, then you'd probably like to carry a few things and work out some arrangement with your office in that place where you can have some stove where you can cook. Then cook for yourself. And there's many things which are packed, so be careful. I'm sure you all are careful in Australia. You look at the pack and see the ingredients and so on. And I think that probably would take care of what you eat outside. At the office, it's best to carry your own prasadam. Your daily office that you go. That's the best thing to do. So it keeps things very pure. So is there any question related to this point about eating when you're traveling for work? Yes. Just this one point, specific point. Yes. So now we have come down to the practical level. We had a theoretical and philosophical understanding, and now we're getting down to brass tacks. Yes? The actual practicalities. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, I have a specific question. If you're going for 28 days and then coming back for 7 days or 10 days, and the facility, the job doesn't allow you to have, they don't have vegetarian food up where there are remote areas, what do you do in that situation?
Probably might be a good option to look for another job. If you've exhausted all these options and still there's no option, then I think it's time to do that. Unless it's really a question of your survival and there's no job available and you need something to eat, you need to earn something. So it depends if things have become that extreme or that drastic. But if it's not, look for another job and try to get something that will enable you to practice your spiritual your life better. After all, why are we earning? We are earning. Why are we working? Why do you work? To earn money. That's the bottom line, isn't it? It's a blunt answer. We work to earn money. Why do you earn money? To maintain yourself and your family, to survive. And why do you survive? Why do you want to survive? To become Krishna conscious. So at the end of the day, the goal of our life is to become Krishna conscious. So at the beginning of the spectrum is our job, at the end is our Krishna consciousness. So if the job is going to be a major deterrent to our accomplishing the goal of Krishna consciousness, then we should think seriously about the job. As I was discussing in one program the other day, whatever decisions you have to take in life, be it whether you want to eat one chapati more at prasadam time or not, or whether it's a major question of changing your job or relocating to another place or whatever, let that be in consideration of this one question: how will it affect my Krishna consciousness? How will it affect others' Krishna consciousness? So we have to consider these points. Any other questions on this specific point? Let's stick to only this one specific point now. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, how can we teach the kids not to desire eating outside, like all the ads, everything make them tempted, but so how can we show them it's
specifically for traveling, for those who are traveling on work? Let's finish this point, then we'll come to the children, because that's a more involved question regarding work and traveling and eating out. Let's talk about this one thing right now. Yes.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
We'll come back to this point. Please remember to ask me when we come to children.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, what can you do in a situation if you have to travel away from work? It's hard to find, there is vegetarian food, there are only pure vegetarian restaurants which also don't serve onion, garlic, and you don't have access to prasadam. In that case, can you go to those restaurants? Or?
Well, after you've exhausted all these other options, and now you can't carry prasadam for too long, or you can't take prasadam into the country. So when all these previous options that I outlined are exhausted, and you're going to be there long enough to not be able to survive just on fruits and nuts and so on, then obviously you need some grain, you have to eat some rice or something. Then alright, try to look for a place, then you look for a cooking option. But if even that is not possible for some reason, you really just have to eat out and you need to eat some grains, then okay, go try to find a good vegetarian restaurant or try to find a place where you can just get some simple things like rice and some yogurt, and then you have to just offer it mentally. That's the best thing you can do, but it's an absolute last resort. And if that's going to happen frequently, as I mentioned in response to the earlier question, if it's happening too often, then you better reconsider the job and think of something else. So we have to really think on these things. These principles are very important for our life. So we can adjust up to a point. But beyond the point, then we have to really sit back and think what we want to do. Right? If it's once in a while, okay, it's something you can accommodate. But if it's going to happen again and again, then reconsider.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
What is the question from Akashvani? Yeah, okay.
We are very new to the Krishna consciousness, probably attending these sessions for the last 1 year. My question relates to offering to Krishna. In the traditional way, we offer Krishna at home, cook the food with tulsi dal, we offer and eat. It's more about when we are traveling, how we can offer any food which we are taking or any food which we are buying to Krishna and eat. So how we can maintain that the spiritual and traditional way.
If you're already carrying prasadam, that is food that has been offered, that doesn't need to be offered again. But if you're buying fresh, raw food like fruits and so on, and then you want to offer, or some people take even bread and say, I don't know if they put eggs nowadays in commercially available bread, I don't know. But if it's safe bread and something along with the bread, whatever, vegetables, you can think of various things, then you should always carry your little temple. Little temple meaning at least a few small pictures where you can offer it to Krishna. You bring it back to your room wherever you're staying, and if you get tulsi leaves, carry a few with you and then offer it. Carry a few small plates for making the offering. It can be little plates, they don't have to be big ones to take up so much space in your luggage. Keep them carefully. Place tulsi leaf and offer them in your room. And with the usual procedure that you follow at home, offer it here to Krishna, and then you take it as prasadam. The only difficulty is when you have to go to a restaurant to eat. And as I mentioned, that could be a very last option, really, when everything else is exhausted, all the options. In that case, it's a very unpleasant, undesirable kind of an option. But what to do? As a last resort, in a rare situation, just offer it in your mind and do it. But it's not a recommended option. But if there's no other choice, then what to do? Just offer it mentally, beg Krishna, please forgive me. I'm not able to offer this to you properly. It's not even cooked by devotees. Who knows what they eat, but nevertheless, this is the best I could do. Please forgive me. And in your mind, you offer it to Krishna. But please, things go on internet very fast, and then my name will come, that I okay eating out and offering mentally to Krishna. That's the headline that will come, and then everything else that I've said will. So please consider what I've said in the totality. Don't just pick out something that I've said and then amplify that as, this is said, you can eat out and offer in the mind, in the restaurant. You can eat out in the restaurant, headline. Says ISKCON Swami, and so and so. So please take it in the whole perspective of what I'm saying. Yes? So does that answer your question? It's okay. So on this specific point, traveling, still any more questions or doubts? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I had to, last 2 weeks I was out for job, and there were times when we had to go out for meetings, to restaurants with everyone, and I just used to not eat or drink anything. I used to just keep myself to myself. And it's sort of created a not so pleasant environment within the team. So on next occasion, if this, and I repeated that on every occasion we went out. So how should one behave, or what should be the strategy to...
Yes, this is a tricky question when it comes to your office and you have an office lunch and it's part of your job to have lunch with your colleagues, maybe in the office canteen or maybe outside in the restaurant. And if you don't eat every time you don't eat and you eat nothing, then it looks bad. They look at you as being something strange. Or worse still, you take out your box and you start eating, then I've got prasadam from home. They just think you're strange and they can't relate to you. So you have to see first of all whether there's really a need to work, fundamentally. If there is a real need to work, then can there be a job where I am not required to do this kind of thing? Go out and eat? You see, it's always a question of this, if not this, this, if not this, if not this, like that. It's always going to be like that. Then you have to take your pick of where you want to be on the hierarchy, right? So then, if it's a job that allows me the flexibility of not eating out and I can eat by myself and so on, if it's a simpler kind of a job, then that's better. And again, if somehow or the other some devotee is in a situation where there is no other alternative, or occasionally you have to go, you're in a position where you just can't say no, then all right. Then we come to that last option that's there for traveling also. Take some fruit, take some salad, some raw thing. And nowadays people are into raw diets, and in the West they like it. So they won't consider that something strange. Then just take this raw food and just mentally offer it to Krishna, beg forgiveness, offer it, request him to accept it, and manage like that. But again, hopefully it's not something that happens again and again. Then we have to reconsider. Yes.
Maharaj, I was just wondering, in the context of professional meetings that we may have to attend, if the facility exists for the person to be quite comfortable in not eating anything because they take prasadam beforehand, but doesn't make a big deal of it, and nor are they worried about what people might say, they're just there to attend the professional meeting and it's not an issue, is that preferable to not take if the menu can be changed? For example, if we ask for milk, they'll provide it, or cut fruits, but it's still in a restaurant. What is the preferred option there if both options exist?
Of course, the best is to eat nothing that is not offered to Krishna properly. That's always the best option. And then it's a question of which rung in the hierarchy you want to be in. The higher you are, the better. Then you have to see your particular circumstances and how necessary and important it is for you to adjust in the context of your whole life. Preferably, better not to eat anything from outside if you're really serious about your Krishna consciousness. At the same time, if the practical realities are such and you need to make some adjustment somewhere, then you'd make the minimum possible adjustment. See where that minimum possible adjustment is available and do that. Right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, all these points that I made. Fit in wherever you think you need to fit in. But the ideal is there that we don't want to eat anything that's not offered to Krishna properly, as far as possible. Ahara shuddho, sattva shuddhi, sattva shuddho, Dhruva-smriti, right? Bhagavad Gita purports, Prabhupada mentions how important pure food is. You are what you eat. Our consciousness depends to a great deal on the purity of the food that we eat. So if we focus on this, then that will shape our thoughts. You know, in the morning, I began by giving you a certain flow, a hierarchy. It began with good thoughts. Good thoughts leads to good speech, which leads to good actions, which leads to good habits and good culture. What comes before good thoughts? Good food. Pure food. By good food, I don't mean paneer and ice cream. By good food here, I mean pure food. Prasadam, Krishna prasadam, spiritual food. That is going to fashion our thoughts, our thinking. So that's so important for us. So we should not take food so casually. If someone is in a very senior position and he has to deal with people at a high level, you got to do something, it's unavoidable, then many devotees, what they do is they just take raw foods and they manage like that. Because by being in that position, they're able to do a lot of service and preaching. So one has to weigh all these things and then see. There's not always black and white answers. But the principle one should understand very well. So, okay, now this is as far as the point of eating out at work is concerned. Now the other questions of eating, yes, somebody raised a question about, what was that question? Yes, can you please repeat that question? So now we're shifting to another subtopic under the prasadam category. No, it's just prasadam, yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, like how can we teach the kids not to desire eating outside, like because the ads, everything, they get attracted, so with the friends and everything, they feel sometimes, they'll start teasing, you don't eat this, don't eat that, you'll become like this, you'll become like that, so you have to be more healthy if you eat this. They get distracted.
Yes, this is a very real problem, and not just in Australia, but everywhere in the world. Even in India, it's a big problem. Because there's many students who eat non-vegetarian food, and certainly cakes which contain eggs at the bare minimum. And it's very hard. Every Grihastha who is a parent faces this problem. In some cases, it is possible the schools respect it and they're very careful about it. But in India, they're not so respectful. Maybe here also it's a temptation for the children, so it is a challenge. I don't have ready-made solutions for that. There are solutions, but probably it will come after a generation or two, when we will have our own schools, we will have our own gurukuls, we will have our own community of devotees, when Sydney will be 80% Krishna conscious, and then we'll have lots of, Govindas and Gopals and so many other places to eat. Then that will be a solution. Till then we just have to manage the best you can Feed your children the best at home so that they don't feel like eating out. Give them the best you can. But see, not just that you are failing, even Mother Yashoda was failing. She was giving Krishna the best of milk and milk products. But still he would go and steal. So if your children do that, what can you do? They're following in the footsteps of your worshipable Lord. You can't blame them. So anyway, this is the nature of this world. They're always going to be open to that temptation. So long as they're outside interacting, mingling with non-devotee children, this problem is going to be there. You just have to face it and educate your child in such a way that they become strong enough to understand, yes, I will not eat this. And some children do. They're very sensitive and clear about it in their mind. They always ask, if this is this, then they don't eat. So if you make your child understand properly the importance of this thing and make him strong enough to resist the temptation, then it's okay. But sometimes the child is very small, and sometimes in India or even for others, even in Australia or England, wherever, the extended family likes to pamper the child with so many things. They think that's the symptom of love. You people are depriving this child of everything, but at least we should give them all kinds of foods available in the market which may not be prasadam. So you have to do the best you can to educate your child, and it has to be a collective effort. The family members, the devotee community all get together to bring the children up to that level of conviction. So therefore there's a famous saying that it takes a village to raise a child. It's not only the parents or the immediate family that is responsible for raising the child. The entire village, because there's so many other factors that influence the child. Right? So do the best you can. And Hare Krishna. Yes.
Maharaj, can I make a comment on this?
Yes, please.
From our experience, we found that with my children growing up here, when they went to school and they found that other kids are eating meat and they're not eating, so they came and asked why we are different, why I'm different from everybody else. But then when we brought them to the temple and showed them the other kids also follow the same values, you're not weird, you're not something odd person out, then they could understand that we have made different choices, they have made different choices. So we may not be able to change them, but we don't have to change either. It's perfectly normal to not eat meat.
Yes, very good. That's correct.
Thank
So
you,
therefore, bringing them up with the correct convictions, and also, as I said, it takes a village to raise a child. So if they meet other children who are also similarly following it, yes, that's an important point, so they don't get to feel that they are very strange, because their school friends may make them feel that they are strange. But if they have others who are doing this, then they'll feel strong. Another point though is that it's easier, it's quite ironic, quite paradoxical, it's easier for your child to be vegetarian in the Western countries than it is to be in India. Because in the Western countries, people respect vegetarianism. And it's becoming popular now. So even the teachers understand. Even in your office, people will understand. If they say you're vegetarian, they respect you for it. But in India, because people want to become like the Westerners, so they think you're backward if you're vegetarian. So actually the problem is in India, it's not so, it's much lesser over here, because people respect if you're vegetarian. So in that sense, you're better off here. Yes, on the same point. So let's take up one point and try to deal with all these
Hare
practical
Krishna
issues.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to say, just stopping the kids eating, like tell them all negative thing about that thing. Instead of that, we can for all the mothers. We can make different varieties food like Chinese and vegetarian burger, Turkish dish, like all different variety.
Yes.
So the children doesn't get attracted to the other food.
Yes. That's also important. I mentioned that. But still, like Krishna went, the child will go sometime. He will want to eat. But we have to do the best we can. So that at least for that reason the child doesn't go somewhere to eat. Anything on this particular point?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Where is the question coming? Yes, Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, it's not a question, I'm just adding something to
Yes,
your point.
yes.
My brother is 19 years old and he used to eat non-vegetarian all his life he had. But I think if we address the main issue, why kids or why everybody is eating non-veg and why we should not, is compassion. So just one video on YouTube, I showed him how they slaughter and he turned a vegetarian. It's been 1.5 years, he has not even looked at non-vegetarian food. He's an independent boy, he's 19 years old. With my Rashi is 4 years old, and all I did was, I showed her videos which were not as furious, I would say, the slaughtering, but I explained to her that eating meat is not good, we do not eat kids, and we do not eat meat. So now she knows if I eat meat, I'll become a monster, for a kid. But she knows that it is out of compassion that we do not eat meat. It's not because we are different or somebody else is different, they are, but it is out of compassion. So if we teach them the main thing, the main root is out of compassion, I think they'll go a long way with that.
Very nice, thank you. So we have to make the kids understand that basically why don't we eat meat? So if you educate them nicely and they understand the reasons, the logic for it, then they appreciate it. Then they become convinced. And it's not just a question of very young children, it's also the older children who may face these temptations and these challenges from their friends and so on.
Well, the same point that Mataji was making, because many of the children, they were not able to understand that meat actually comes from a process of killing another animal. And I was in a similar situation like that with my nephews and others. So I showed them the video, and some of my colleagues at work, their children also had become, gave up meat eating. So that's what I wanted to.
Yes, actually there was one famous person, a musician, who said that if slaughterhouses had glass walls, then everybody would become vegetarian. Because then you actually see the kind of cruelty that is involved in this. And as regards eating many other things, I have found in my travels that somehow things get diluted. Now devotees more frequently tend to eat out in restaurants, even though they're at home. It's the modern habit of eating out, of not wanting to cook at home. And then if you have a Govindas or something where devotees are cooking, that's all right, once in a while, certainly. But if you're eating in a Karmi restaurant, then that's of course not acceptable from a Krishna conscious point of view. So the family members, even if sometimes they're devotees, it's becoming somewhat of an accepted practice. So I think we have to be a little careful there. And eating things which are commercially made, cooked. And then there is a big question of what's that sweet item which is brown in color? Somebody, when I was in England, there was a rumor, it was like wildfire everywhere. The GBC has passed a resolution that chocolate eating is okay. And then everyone went on a rampage eating chocolate. Everybody was eating chocolate because GBC said it's okay. And I said, I've never heard of anything like that. So I made a few phone calls and I read a few emails that is there some such I've never heard of such a thing. He said, no, there's no such resolution. But there was some point that was raised in the GBC meeting one time, and then somebody heard something and then something, and like Chinese whispers it went on. And then everywhere people were saying, well, GBC passed a resolution that you can eat chocolates. So what's wrong with chocolate? So like that, they go on. So why do we want to eat chocolate or we don't eat chocolate? Why? Do we eat or do we not? No? Then why? Caffeine and cocoa. Cocoa contains caffeine. What's wrong with caffeine? It's a stimulant. It's just like tannin and other things in tea and coffee and so on. So we don't consume such products. Prabhupada's instructions are very clear on this point. So then why should we unnecessarily do it? It's not that eating chocolate is the goal of life. Correct? So even if you avoid chocolate, it's not that there's some big disaster in your life, that you've given up some chocolate. So even if it is a borderline case, where there is doubt, we should not take something. Better to avoid something if there is a doubt. So similarly with chocolate, Prabhupada said clearly, so why should we go into some, why should we keep a chocolate between ourselves and Krishna? Yes? When you go to Goloka Vrindavan, there are things that are much more delicious than chocolates. And because then everybody was eating chocolate, then it started moving, it spread all over the world. And everywhere I go, then people are saying, well, GBC, I said, no, GBC not passed a resolution like that. So eating out and eating chocolates, eating this and that, it's just like we're trying, it's as if we are just trying to find loopholes. We're just looking for an opportunity to get something to just slip out of the net, move out. At the same time, we know that being a vegetarian, not eating chocolate, not eating tea and coffee is not the most important thing in our spiritual life. The most important thing is to become pure devotees. We want to chant Hare Krishna nicely. We want to develop Vaishnava qualities. But these small and big things, they help us because we are following sadhana bhakti. In the practice of sadhana bhakti, there is discipline. Discipline means regulations, do's and don'ts. So if we follow those do's and don'ts, both positive as well as negative, then we make better advancement. Any other questions in this regard? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Can we eat leftover prasadams after keeping it in the fridge for 1 day or 2 days?
Yes, you can. Because it is prasadam. Prasadam is always pure. But you should also make sure that the prasadam that is kept, if it's already, it shouldn't be half eaten by somebody. If it is clean, then you can keep it in the fridge, because if you keep half eaten, if your plate is half eaten, then you shouldn't keep that in the fridge, of course. But if it is from the main serving bowl, which is still clean, you served other people from that bowl, but it's in the big bowl and you keep that big bowl, that is all right. But not your half-eaten plate. I've seen that sometimes. That should not go into the fridge, because then you're keeping other things in the fridge which will later be offered to Krishna. But then that makes your bhoga also unclean. Okay? Any other question? This is a very important thing. Prasadam, eating out. Okay, so that's about prasadam. How are we doing for time? I see. We'll go to about 8:30. Okay. Then shall we come to the entertainment part, because these are smaller issues. The children's part will probably take longer. Yes, entertainment and TV and movies and so on. This also seems to be a trend that's catching on in many parts of the world. A concession, a slackening of things where gradually people say, you don't need to be so fanatic. So there is a difference between adherence to discipline on one hand and being a fanatic on the other hand. It doesn't mean that if you're following rules strictly, you're a fanatic. It doesn't mean that. Rather, we should follow rules strictly. And that because ultimately we realize that these things affect our consciousness very deeply. Just as food affects our consciousness, even our entertainment affects our consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Yuktahara viharasya. So not only should your ahar or food be regulated, but your vihar or entertainment should also be regulated. So our entertainment should be Krishna conscious entertainment. So whatever we are doing today, for example, 1.5 days we are here. Now there's drama, there's music, and there's nice prasadam, good association, friendship with so many devotees. So it's like an entertainment too, but it's an entertainment that is simultaneously educative, spiritually uplifting. The word entertainment doesn't have to connote the mode of passion. Generally, when we talk of entertainment, people refer to something going out to a music show where there's a lot of banging and noise, or going to a cinema where all the 4 regulative principles are violated. So entertainment doesn't necessarily mean violation of the 4 regulative principles. So we have pure entertainment. As we were discussing in an earlier session the other day, that we need more facilities for Krishna conscious entertainment for our devotees as well as for children. So as a movement, as an institution, as a community of devotees, when we grow more, as the years go by, perhaps we would evolve more and more better and spiritual entertainment for our devotees, so they don't have to really feel the need to go to karmi dramas in the theater, to go to karmi movies, or to watch television at home, and so on and so forth. And especially if the parents do that, then the children are not going to be far behind. They'll be one step ahead very soon. So this is an important concern, where because devotees are not able to restrain themselves, and sometimes devotees tell, okay, all right, you do once a month, one movie once a month, or maybe once, something like that. But that's not necessary. So even regarding entertainment, we have so many wonderful devotional films available in ISKCON. And also within our community of devotees, we should, as you have nice dramas like you had on the Gaur Purnima day, you had a wonderful drama here today. There's so much of kirtan, so much of bhajans, music. So we have it. So we don't need to go anywhere. Any questions regarding this? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, what about watching news on television?
The problem with television is, it comes in a package. The problem in doing anything is it comes in a package. You don't watch only the news. Because the news has so many commercials, advertisements, and then eventually there's always the temptation, let me watch something before the news and after the news also. And the temptation comes up. So if one is very careful about it and one really needs to know, then all right, a little bit sometimes I guess, but it's not really necessary. We need to know a little something about what's happening in the world. I think a brief glance at a newspaper is good enough for that, just so that you can relate to people. In the world, even when you're preaching, talking to people, you should know. So one time one devotee went back to America after many years. He was an American and didn't know who the president was. And when he went for a university lecture, that he was asked, "Oh, you mean he's the president?" He didn't know who the president, because he hadn't been in touch. So sometimes it may be all right to just keep in touch, but we shouldn't get carried away. One time I remember when I was a new brahmachari, and I had wanted to start writing for Krishna. So I started writing, and then I felt that I should also read how other people are writing, because I wanted to write for newspapers and articles and so on, Krishna conscious articles. So I needed to know how they write, what's their style and so on and so forth. So then I started getting a newspaper every day. And then after a while, then I started asking myself, really, I'm looking forward to it every morning. Every morning, then I start thinking, where's the newspaper going to come? When is it going to come? Has he come already? And then I realized this is a symptom of an attachment. And then I figured, am I getting attachment? Am I getting attached to this newspaper? What is it? Or is it really that I want to learn how to write and therefore I want to read this and so on? And then to test myself, I stopped the newspaper for some months. I said, no more reading, let me see. And after that, we didn't start it again. But I'm saying these things have this nature of, getting you attached to it. And you never know when you get into that whole mood. So yes, one may do it very cautiously, very selectively. One has to see that one doesn't get too attached to it, because one thing leads to another. Right? Any other questions or comments about this? Also, you feel free to make your comments and observations as well, because all of you are facing these issues. And if you have any insights and observations or comments to make, please feel free to make them. Just raise your hands. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. What I'm worried about, because my son is just 1 year old, I'm just worried about the kids who are grown up now, and they are like they are watching video games, they're playing video games on the TV, and they're so fascinated about the games actually. They just want iPhone for the games. So I'm just scared of my son, getting addicted to the games. Always they want the games. So how could you just avoid them getting through the games and make them playful? Like we used to play all the games, outside games, like kabaddi, you said kabaddi, the home program, and like cricket and all. So like I'm talking about also cricket, like do we have to teach them cricket or any other games just to avoid the video games and games, to just avoid the mental, what do you say, dumbness, just to avoid the dumbness of the mind. So what should we prefer then?
This is our progress and advancement. What to do? Our modern civilization. As I was mentioning in that home program, that in the early days, children would have such a fun time, jumping, running, climbing trees, falling from trees, breaking a bone here and there, and it was such a fun life. Nowadays, children want to just sit on the computer, iPhone, iPad, playing these games that are all full of violence and killing, and just jumping. Oh, they have these things. I was seeing one boy, you have his race where you jump over and you crash. And so it kind of makes them zombies. All day they're just addicted to that machine. So we have to reflect. Apart from the anxiety that you have for your own child, which is natural and normal, we should also consider where the whole society is heading. We should reflect. Is this what we want our civilization to be? Do we want our children to be like robots? And people are becoming like that. This is becoming increasingly impersonal. Because now children, they grow up into adults and they can relate better to the computer and to machines than they can to people. So they would rather spend hours on the computer doing things instead of dealing with people or dealing with nature, dealing with so many other positive things. So we should be convinced first and foremost that what we call modern civilization, as Prabhupada explained really nicely, is a civilization that is killing not just our spirituality, but it's killing our very creativity. It's killing our instinct, creative instinct. It is making us dull in so many ways. Apart from spoiling health, because of looking like that, they get spectacles and so many issues come as a result of that. For all the benefits that technology may give us, you look at these other things and you wonder whether it's worth the price. Are we really better off than we were before? And everybody today is besotted, infatuated by the razzle-dazzle of the modern technological culture. Every time there's a new phone that comes up, Apple comes up with something, this one comes up with something, the huge lines, and people are willing to pay any amount to get the first instrument from the shop, and people are going crazy over these things. People are becoming absolutely machines, robots. And even on the streets, all day long, everybody's just this and that. So well, what can we say? We have chosen to accept this kind of a civilization. There's not so much you can do about that, the problem you have mentioned. It seems to be too overwhelming a problem if you want to live the kind of life you're living now. If you want to live in the modern day city life, then this is something you have to accept. It's part of the game. Be sure your son is going to do the things that the older boys are doing. For sure. Unless there's a drastic change of scene. And nowadays, I heard they replaced the blackboard or the whiteboard with iPads. So they teach you only on iPads now. You do your thing and you do this. Keeping up. So what to do? That is our civilization. So we are going off into another topic which I don't want to venture into too much because that's a big topic. But nevertheless, it just goes to show that at least we should be convinced of which direction the world is going in, and we should know whether it's good or not good. That's the reason we had this whole second breakout session on traditional versus modern. Yes? Not that traditional doesn't have its problems, but basically the idea was to make us take a hard look at what we call as modern and advanced and progressive and so on. What kind of effects this has in every aspect, every ounce and every millimeter of our life. Nothing in our life is untouched by this modern techno-commercial civilization. So, you're trying to make the best use of a bad bargain. Your children are here, you're living in the city, earning your livelihood, so unfortunately, you have to deal with it. So you just have to do whatever you can to minimize the damage. If we are going to put them to this kind of educational curriculum, in this kind of an atmosphere, then all you can do is to try to just control the damage. Damage control is all you can do. To be very blunt and very honest. But the truth must be spoken. And it's not going to take long before the children deviate into something that is not so innocent. They'll go on to other things. So that's why we need a very, very strong Krishna conscious community. And it's the need of the hour. And the educational system, where we have our own entertainment, we have our own other things to occupy the mind of the child, and the adults also have that, and a whole community where the children won't feel the need for it. It's a complicated topic also, because if you deprive them too much and they're not in touch with the outside world, that's sometimes an objection that people make, and there is some validity to that objection. But still, yes, if you deprive the child too much, keep the child isolated, eventually when the child gets exposed to the outside world, then what will happen? Then it will be too much for the child to take. That's also a point. So we have to see how much we want to expose the child to. And then do the best you can to coach the child, educate the child, and tell him, look, be careful, and let him increase his taste in Krishna consciousness more as he goes on. But still, he's not going to stop using that iPad. And he's not going to stop misusing that iPad and that computer. It is going to be misused. But that's the life we have chosen. Who can we blame? Ourselves only. Therefore, the whole idea of my discussion now is that we should think whither progress. What is it that we are calling progress and advancement? Is this really advancement? That is something we should all deeply think about. That is why Prabhupada sometimes spoke so strongly against this modern civilization, the modern educational system. So do the best you can. Give him a lot of Krishna consciousness. Give him a lot of love and affection, and take care nicely. Let there be a very strong community of devotees where children are looked after so nicely, collectively, where they can have fun and games together, they can play, and they grow up like that. So the damage is minimized. That should be the effort we can do in this situation. And yes, a lot can happen. So all the Grihasthas must actually put their heads and shoulders together and see, we've got to do something about it. It's a question of our future, our children's future. That's why Prabhupada was so keen on starting the Gurukul. But unfortunately, for various reasons, the experiments were not successful. They were successful up to a point, but now it's hard. But anyway, we need our own facilities. Then we will be able to protect our children better. The outside world is moving too fast, too quick. Even the adults are getting mesmerized. What to speak of the children? Isn't it? You were asking questions about your 1-year-old boy. You're worried about the 1-year-old boy. I'm worried about the 30-year-old boys, the 50-year-old boys, the 70-year-old boys who get exposed to this civilization. So we can do the best we can so that we can protect ourselves, protect the devotees from the onslaught of these things. Now that we have it, also use it for whatever is best. Use it for Krishna conscious purposes. Let him use the iPad for Krishna conscious purposes. Let him use the computer for Krishna conscious purposes. And educate him that he doesn't misuse it. And that's the best you can do. In the one of the premier technological institutes in India, the IIT Kanpur, I visit there once a year or once in 2 years to interact with the students. The registrar of the university, he closed down the internet at night, the Wi-Fi system, and he banned it. There was nobody to use internet at night. because all the students would stay up all night on the internet, and they would then sleep in the morning when it was time to go to the class, and they wouldn't go to their class in the college. So of course it raised a big hue and cry, there was so much resistance, and ultimately he had to reverse the decision. But it goes to show that the frustration of authorities is that now the college students, even university level, they're all day on the internet. And it's not that this chemical engineering is the only thing they were looking at. So this is our civilization. So advancement has its flip side. So at least we should be clear in our mind what is advancement, what is not advancement. Advancement means becoming a pure devotee. Moving in the direction of becoming a pure devotee is real advancement. Accepting what is necessary for that purpose and giving up what is not necessary or harmful for that purpose, that is advancement. Advancement is not necessarily just having high technology, spaceships, computers, applications and iPhones. I was mentioning, maybe it was in Melbourne or here, I don't know. Wherever I go, people offer me, would you like an iPhone? So I said, I no phone. Or I fed up phone. So the technology is the biggest challenge for the whole world. It's affecting the whole consciousness of the world like nothing else before. And for all its good things and the benefits that technology has given us, it is presenting to us challenges that human history has not faced before in history. Humanity has not faced in history. And the damages that are coming out of it also are, in a few decades, the damage that has come about is something that has not happened for centuries before. So all the more reason that our Krishna consciousness should be very strong. We should preach very strongly, nicely. Strongly, I mean that we should preach with sincerity, with enthusiasm. And we should also become stronger, make our children stronger, so that we can resist all these temptations and merely use things that are available for the good, for Krishna's service. Just take as much as you need for Krishna's service. So we are strong enough to do that, we will get by. Yes, I'm sorry if I took a little long to answer your question. Sorry if I caused you a little depression to tell you that your son is going to do these things in the future. But better to be always situated in the reality. Why to live in a world that is not real, isn't it? But you can do a lot to help the situation. And there are indeed so many young people, youth, who have come through this technological civilization and they're shining examples of good devotees. They've gone through this period. They've emerged as wonderful, shining devotees. So there is hope. So we see so many young people here and they've all gone through it. So it's not dark. There is bright future available. So if we just train them nicely in Krishna consciousness and bring them up nicely and create a very wonderful atmosphere for them as they grow up from childhood into their teens and more, then they will be strong. Then they will be very good examples of Krishna consciousness, even to their fellow students at the university and so on. So we should be optimistic as well. Our optimism is in Krishna consciousness. All right? Any other points?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, there is a wider question related to participating in sports. We say that the devotees should not participate in sports, but we know that sports are important for a child's development. What's your opinion on that?
Yes, children should play. They should play. we can't deprive them of a very simple, basic thing like playing. It's very important for their overall development, physical, mental, emotional, psychological development even, that they should play. But the question is, play what? Nowadays they only play this with the iPhones and iPads and computer games and a war between this camp and that camp and all that on the video games. Let them play something which is harmless, which is not spiritually harmful. Even for devotees, Prabhupada recommended swimming. Yes, let them learn swimming, let them play things on the field. Swimming is also very nice. One time Prabhupada recommended wrestling also. So wrestling and swimming are Vaishnava sports, Prabhupada said one time. But at least swimming and fields, let them be out in the field and play and run, and they can do these things. We should give them some freedom to do that. I think that is an important part of the overall development of a child. Yes.
Hare Krishna. If we face so many difficulties in bringing up children and the coming generations towards Krishna consciousness, is there something we should just try rather than we should take a step or take a U-turn or move closer to the place? If we get a mercy, like let's go Vrindavan or Mayapur, where we could send our kids to the Gurukuls, or
well, there are options, but they are not options for the whole world. We have hundreds and thousands of devotees, right, everywhere. And wherever you send them, these problems exist. Vrindavan also has its share of iPads and iPods, and there's everything there that you can have in Sydney. Maybe not as sophisticated, but it's there. So the issue is ultimately to just strengthen our Krishna consciousness and use these things that are there for the best purposes to help us in our Krishna consciousness, so that the children can also learn to dovetail these things for Krishna service. You can't stop them from using it, so encourage them to use it in Krishna service. And in this way, we can take the positive of the technology and use it. But there are many people today in the Western countries who have understood the nature of this technological civilization, and there's a massive back to the land movement that is going on in America. It's happening in other places too, where people don't want to be part of this whole civilization of this sort. They rather go back to nature, just live a simple life, and they're not even devotees. Perhaps some of them are not even believers in God. But they just understood one thing: this civilization, there's something wrong here. So they want to go and live a simple life. So there's many devotees taking such decisions. They do. That's why Prabhupada wanted these farm communities as an alternative. People can go back and live simply, live a Krishna conscious life. So there are many devotees doing that kind of thing. And for most people, however, that may not be something that's practical for them to do. So we have to deal with their current situation and see what we can do to make them strong in their Krishna consciousness. So this is the direction we should go in. The options are always there, but there's no solution ultimately for being strong in Krishna consciousness. So the devotee community has to be very united, so that then things will flourish and prosper. One last question, if there's anything. Yes.
Are we allowed to watch sports in the television, especially when India playing cricket and batting?
Such an batting.
Now the real question comes. I think you know the answer. Hare Krishna. So I think we are, what's the time now? 8:15. Yes. So let me end on a positive and optimistic note. I've dampened you enough with all my negative view on this world. Let me give you the good news. The good news is that despite all these problems in Kali Yuga, there's one wonderful and good news for you. What is that? Chant Hare Krishna and be happy and go back to Krishna's kingdom. That, you see, in Satya Yuga there was no iPad. But people had to perform austerities for thousands of years. In Kali Yuga they have all these problems, but just chant Hare Krishna and you can perfect your life. So therefore we can see that it's a small price to pay. So if we just manage to somehow deal with the whole world around us and the way it's changing and everything, and if we just remain focused on Krishna consciousness in an intelligent way, then we can attain perfection of life even here and now in Sydney. So that is the good news. So we should not become depressed. Oh, the world around us is like this, what's the future? The future is bright because the golden age has begun. The golden age of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has dawned. Soon a time will come when you will have people in every country in large numbers chanting Hare Krishna. It will become the mainstream path for people of this world. So that time will come also. So we should prepare for it. We have to lay the foundations for that situation to come. So let's be optimistic. Despite all the negativity around us, there is great hope because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has advented 500 years ago and given us this Harinam Sankirtan method. So all the other negativities coming from anything else can be countered and overcome by this one single process. So let's chant a little something now. Yes? Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, ISKCON Sydney Yatra ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari 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 Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.